West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
This mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
What do you say, sports fans? It's Wednesday, October 7th. So good to see you today. Welcome to the program, The Bill Press Show, here on Free Speech TV and on Talker TV. That's our video stream, youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR TV, and Free Speech, of course, on DirecTV and the Dish Network nationwide. So good to see you. The idiocy continues from Republican candidates in response to the shooting at Roseburg, Oregon, at Umpqua Community College just about a week ago. The latest is, remember that Jeb Bush's reaction was, well, stuff happens. Donald Trump, same thing. Horrible things will always happen. It gets worse. Ben Carson now saying that he's blaming the victims. Because they didn't rush the shooter. They just sat there and let him kill them. And Bobby Jindal is out. He is blaming the guy's father because he said he didn't do a good job of raising his sons. Why don't they just blame the killer? And why don't they blame the guns, the easy accessibility to guns, which this guy should never have had? In other news, the Justice Department, big deal, announcing it is releasing 6,000 prisoners from U.S. prisons because they have been there for much too long and too heavy sentences for nonviolent drug offenses. The top general in Afghanistan admits we made a huge mistake in sending in an airstrike that resulted in the bombing the hospital of Doctors Without Borders and killing 22 people, including 12 staff members. The Yankees got knocked out by the Astros in the first game of the playoffs. They are shut down now for the winter. And the White House is saying, don't worry if Joe Biden decides to run for president. We're sure he can continue to juggle his duties as vice president while running for president. And of course he can. Al Gore did it, and others have done it. There we go. Lots to talk about. Give us a call. Give us your opinion at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay.
So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
The nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama promised to do something about people in prison and for long sentences for nonviolent crimes, and he has. Announcing yesterday releasing 6,000 people from American prisons. Good move. Hello, everybody. What do you say? With that bit of big news and good news, we start off the Bill Press Show today, Wednesday, October 7. Welcome to the program. So good to see you today. Oh, look at you all gathering around the radio, all gathering around the front seat of your car or in your office or the kitchen table or wherever.
I hope some of you are still in bed. I mean, good grief. It's okay if you still have us on.
That's all right, too.
Invite some friends into bed, man. What the hell?
Yeah, climb in. Here we are, cuddle up for the Bill Press Show this Wednesday morning. Wish I were back in bed. Good to see you on your local progressive talk radio station. Good to see you on Free Speech TV and all around the world. Great to see you on Talker TV, YouTube.com, Talker TV. They could be even watching us in Madrid today, for all we know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Who could possibly be doing that?
I don't know. We'll see if we get any calls from Madrid today, at any rate. We look forward to getting your calls at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. And, of course, your comments welcome on Twitter, at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
Hey, good morning.
Yes. Ray Rogers here. She's here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Bonte Kanzler, our videographer for today, because, Cyprian's in Madrid.
Cyprian's in Madrid.
Huh.
Oh, yeah.
Cyprian's in Madrid.
Yeah, but what? Let me see. 6 hour difference. Oh, yeah. He's probably already out of the bullfight. It's noon. They have every day. They got the bullfight in Madrid.
That's right.
Yeah, and they have amateurs are welcome in from the stands just to take.
Oh boy, can you imagine?
Oh man,
go get it, Sip.
Well, Cyprian told me he was packing his red cape.
You know he has one.
That's it, man. I want to see that.
Oh, man.
I hope somebody gets a YouTube of that. Cyprian up against a big bull.
I mean, he's worked with you for long enough. It can't be that scary.
All right.
I kid.
All right. Well, we missed Cyprian, but it was our mistake to let him go to Paris a month or so ago, and now, shoot, we'll never keep him in the studio.
I know. It's all over now, baby.
You got it. Hey, by the way, guess who's back?
Who's back?
Jay Leno.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy Fallon
Peter's favorite.
Had a sore throat or something last night, so I invited Jay Leno in, who actually did the monologue back in his old slot. And he had some fun with a couple of the presidential candidates, and including something that somebody we may remember you said about Hillary Clinton.
See, this Ralph Nader called Hillary Clinton a corporatist and a militarist. Isn't that unbelievable? Ralph Nader is still alive?
Actually, I think he's 81.
Wow.
And he just opened a new, do you see that? A new museum.
Oh, yeah.
A tort museum.
Yeah.
Up in Connecticut somewhere. Right.
Of course.
Right. Who the hell is going to go to a tort? You know who's going to go to a tort museum? Trial lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
You got to be pretty obsessive about your job if you're a lawyer and you go to a tort museum.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Wednesday, David Jackson at the White House. John Allen will be here from Vox in studio with us. And Avery Friedman, right from CNN, legal analyst, here to the Bill Press studio today. And Ben Carson, yep, he proves he's just as dumb as we thought he was. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You want to go to Europe?
No.
Yes. You want to go to Europe for cheap? You might be able to do that in 2017 if you fly Norwegian Air. Their CEO, Bjorn Kjos, said in an interview that they have a big plan to start selling one-way tickets from the United States to Europe for $69 one way. Now, how are they going to be able to make that work?
How do you get back?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that, of course. Yeah. But they say that the way that they're going to make this happen is they're going to start flying from airports that have lower fees.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to go through like a LaGuardia or So he says that he points to...
Not LaGuardia, JFK.
JFK. He points to New York's Westchester County Airport or Connecticut's Bradley International Airport just north of Hartford.
Yeah.
So airports like that would be how they end up flying for so cheap. It's an interesting idea. We'll see if it works. He says they'll have that up in 2017.
No, the first question, Norwegian airline?
Yeah.
What do they serve? Raw fish.
Enjoy your lutefisk.
Seal.
Seal. Did you know that Disneyland just raised the price of their annual pass to $1,000? If you want to go to Disneyland, you want to get a pass for the year, it will cost you big time. That will get you into both of the parks they have there in Anaheim. But here's the other thing. They're toying with a new idea that will help limit people in the park. The problem is they're having so many people in the park that they're having to turn people away. One guy found that out the hard way. They interviewed him for this Marketplace story where he took his whole family to Disneyland. He showed up and they said, sorry, we're sold out for the day. And they had to turn around and go home. So what they're doing is peak pricing. So when the park is busier, they're going to charge people more. And then when it's not as busy, they're going to charge people less to try and get people in. It's an idea they haven't really put into practice before, but we can see that start to happen. General admission is $94 right now, but on quieter days, they said that they could drop it as low as $64.
How much is something like Six Flags?
It's like $50.
Considerably lower,
yeah,
right?
It's a lot less. It's a lot less.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to help them out. I'm going to stay away from Disneyland.
Oh, so you're,
all right.
You're a helper.
They can have my spot.
You're a helper. You remember over the summer, we talked about this story. Cheerios rebranded itself, and they said that the new recipe for Cheerios, they were all going to be gluten-free. That includes their Honey Nut, Apple Cinnamon, Frosted, and Multigrain Cheerios. All of them were going to be gluten-free. Nothing special about them. They're just going to be gluten-free. Well, yesterday they announced that they were recalling 1.8 million boxes of Cheerios and Honey Nut Cheerios. You want to guess why?
Because some gluten sneaked in?
Because some gluten sneaked in. Yes, they made them with wheat flour on a number of days
for kids.
In July, and they said this was purely human error. So they have recalled 1.8 million boxes because they are not gluten-free as advertised.
Can I have gluten-free Cheerios this morning? Oh, Mommy, is there any gluten in my...
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
There you go.
You know, this is just a food fad. It has zero medical or scientific evidence, in my humble opinion. And I'm right and everybody else is wrong. I'm right and Tom Hartman's wrong on this one.
There you go.
All right,
there you go.
That's a challenge.
That's a fight to pick.
Yeah, it's a fight
over gluten.
Over gluten. Right. Well, the idiocy continues. We've spent a couple of days on this, but we're back on it today. And that is the response of some people who should know better, or some people who know the right thing about what happened last Thursday at Umpqua Community College out in Roseburg, the latest mass murder in this country this year. Number 294 is what it was, when we had only had, by last Thursday, 274 days passed in 2015. And the 45th school shooting this calendar year of 2015. And we started Monday talking about it and the stupidity of Jeb Bush and Donald Trump and their response, both of which were, we can't do anything about it. I mean, this, as Jeb said, stuff happens. As Donald Trump says, horrible things will always happen, and so you just have to accept that that's just the way it is. No, it's not. But that was Monday. Yesterday, we went in the other direction because we had somebody stand up, Hillary Clinton, and put forth a good set of proposals saying, no, there is something we can do about it as a people. There's something you can do about it as a president. There's certainly things you can do about it as a Congress, but even things you can do as president without the Congress. And here's what I would do, and take on the NRA and even try to get responsible gun owners to form another organization to challenge the NRA and to really represent honest sportsmen and women and not just the gun manufacturers. So kudos to Hillary again on that. And Martin O'Malley is also out in that camp as well with a strong set of proposals. Today we come back to the idiocy because whatever Trump said and whatever Jeb Bush said pales in comparison now to what Ben Carson said yesterday morning while we were on the air. He's on Fox and Friends ask about what happened out in Roseburg. And again, he uses the old cliche, no, we shouldn't be talking about guns.
Of course it is the person behind the gun. Guns don't kill people. And the Second Amendment is extremely important.
Yeah. No, guns don't kill people. It's the person holding the gun that kills them. Yeah, what if the person holding the gun, what if the person was holding a banana?
Right.
Okay?
Bananas don't kill people.
Yeah. What is holding, a bunch of grapes or a pencil? I mean, come on. It's the damn gun. How can somebody so smart say something so dumb? He's known as one of the smartest, best brain surgeons.
That could be the campaign slogan for Ben Carson. How could someone so smart say something so dumb?
Right. And then he says, you heard him say something about the Second Amendment there. He actually went on to say that, yes, I was in an emergency room. I've operated in an emergency room. And, yes, I've seen a lot of people come in there with blood, with gun wounds and gunshots and operated on people, right? But it doesn't matter. All the blood, the Second Amendment is more important than all of that blood. Isn't that a callous thing to say? You can see 20 school kids in Sandy Hook Elementary School, first graders, shot and killed, and their parents grieving over them. And Ben Carson said, it doesn't matter all that blood. Let them bleed. Second Amendment is more important than all of that. That's what he's saying.
That is what he's saying.
It's just disgusting. All right, then Ben Carson goes on to say, well, if I were there, here's what I would do.
Not only would I probably not cooperate with them, I would not just stand there and let them shoot me. I would say, hey, guys, everybody attack him. He may shoot me, but he can't get us all.
Yeah, you got to understand, right? Oh, this guy walks into a classroom and starts firing. There's not a second lost, right? He starts firing when he walks in. He doesn't stop and say, okay, now what are you guys going to do, right?
Hey, guys.
Uh-huh, yeah. And by the way, if he did pause for 5 or 10 seconds, Ben Carson couldn't get a damn sentence finished in 10 seconds. Oh, I know what I would do. I would say, hey, I'm not going to raise my voice, but I think maybe we should all attack him. What do you think about that? I mean, God, of all people.
Right.
And by the way, there was he didn't say anything about the guy. There was a very brave.
Oh, my God.
Military guy, I guess former military, who did charge the killer.
Yeah. He got shot 5 times in the process,
look what happened to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But what Carson is doing is blaming the victims.
That's exactly right.
He's saying, no, it's their fault because they just sat there and let him shoot them. Oh, God, it's so disgusting. It really is. And now, Fox this morning, by the way, while we're on the air, we just noticed, Fox and Friends, they're attacking the mainstream media, I guess that's me and others, for criticizing Ben Carson for what he said about guns yesterday. How dare we criticize anybody for saying something so absolutely stupid? All right, it didn't stop there. Now he's attacking President Obama because President Obama, it was announced yesterday, he was going to the West Coast anyway. He was going out for a fundraiser in Washington State. And on his way now, they've added a stop. He's going to go to Roseburg, Oregon. He's going to meet privately with the families of the victims, which is something presidents have done since, I remember Ronald Reagan went down to, I forget what the event was, but sort of, they're like the mourner in chief. And Bill Clinton has done it, and George W. Bush has done it, and George H.W. Bush and President Obama has done it. It brings a lot of healing to communities when the president shows up like that. And President Obama, is going to Tucson. He went to Newtown, Connecticut. He went to Charleston, among other places. He's going out privately to meet with the families and just tell them how all Americans really feel for them and are sorry for what happened to them and their families. Would Ben Carson do such a thing? He is attacking President Obama, saying this is purely, he's exploiting this for political purposes. What political purposes? Obama's not running for anything. He's never going to run for anything again. Ben Carson's the one who's running for president. So they ask him the obvious question, well, would you go to this service if you were president? Listen to this.
Probably not. I mean, I would probably have so many things on my agenda that I'd go to the next one.
I'd go to the next one.
Oh, my God.
I wouldn't do anything, of course. So there will be a next one. And maybe I'll go to that one if I'm not too busy. I'm telling you, this guy, he not only doesn't deserve to be president, he doesn't deserve to be a candidate for president. I mean, what is really scary is why anybody would take him seriously. And the more he opens his mouth, the more you have to ask that question. That's my question to you, 866-55-PRESS. I don't expect anybody to call and defend anything he said. How could you defend anything he says? But just tell me, how could anybody take this guy seriously? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it Wednesday morning.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way. It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
You know, Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit everything.
Yeah, a little
It's
bit.
kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking. Random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
And our sexy liberal army of callers call in every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour. The Bill Press Show. We're talking about Ben Carson and his, well, to put it mildly, insensitive comments about what happened up in Roseburg, Oregon. Saying basically, I don't care how many people were killed, how many innocent students were mowed down. Second Amendment's more important than that. All that blood spilled? No, Second Amendment's more important. As if we have to choose one or the other. As if it's impossible to have a Second Amendment, which, by the way, does have the words well-regulated in it, remember? I mean, he's saying you can't have the Second Amendment and responsible gun safety or gun control. No. It's got to be all out, guns a-blazing. That's what the Second Amendment means. Anita is out. Oh, Peter, quick comment.
I was going to say, we're on Twitter, at
Yeah.
BP Show, at BP Show. Cordell says Ben Carson is only good at a couple of things, putting people to sleep and running away like a coward. Phil also says, I know how Ben Carson will get so many folks to support him. He hypnotizes them with his voice.
Anita, now in San Antonio. What do you say, Anita?
Good morning, guys.
Hi.
I think there's something seriously wrong with Ben Carson. I think he maybe autistic or Asperger's. He's like you remember Rain Man? How he was brilliant at math, but there's like this childlike way of thinking. There's something seriously wrong with him.
I do think that there's something wrong with him. It's hard to diagnose a guy like that, but I do think that there is some major disconnect with him.
I do too. I'm not sure, it's a mental disease, but when she said Rain Man, oh man.
Yeah.
That reminded me of Dustin Hoffman and the way he spoke out.
absolutely.
More calls about Carson. Wait to hear what Bobby Jindal said.
This
866
is the Bill Press Show.
I am your toilet. So how do you do? I take away your wee and the odd number 2. For a quiet moment, I'll always be there, bringing you troubles. You don't even have to care. Oh, think about the things you put me through. Things you put me through that have been through you. Stuff from your body I'll happily take. Liquid or solid, whatever you make. When you think of all the things that I do, it's time to say thanks to your Lou. If I wasn't there anymore, you can only imagine disaster. I am a lifesaver, and that is not a lie. Where I don't exist, thousands die. So next time you have to do a poo or a wee, thank the sanitary saints that you have me. When you think of all the things that I do, it's time to say thanks to your Lou. La 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 la
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
Hey, 33 minutes after the hour. We're on a Wednesday, October 7. Good to see you today. David Jackson joins us in the next segment from the White House, covers the White House for USA Today, joins us every Wednesday, early on a Wednesday, but already at his desk at the White House. And we're talking about the inane comments made by Ben Carson yesterday on Fox and Friends. He followed up, by the way, on The View, where he was asked also about an earlier statement that almost tops what he said about Roseburg, Oregon, where he, as we heard, blamed the victims and said, he would charge the attacker. And if he were president, he thinks it's wrong for President Obama to go out there and grieve with the families, that if he were president, he would just wait for the next one, or maybe the next one after that, or kind of whatever. Total insensitivity. And then, so on The View, he was asked about a comment where he had made about, well, the answer is, and this is the NRA's answer, for schools is, pardon me, just to give every teacher a gun. Arm every teacher. That's the answer. Maybe arm every student. But he starts out arming every teacher, including kindergarten teachers. He's asked about that.
You said that you'd be very comfortable if kindergarten teachers had guns in the classroom. Why do you think that's a good idea?
Not all kindergarten teachers. I said people who are trained and understand all the implications. And you obviously are not just going to have a weapon sitting on the kindergarten teacher's desk.
But think about that, though. Again, he said we need to train a whole new crop of teachers.
Yeah.
Right? So now he's got a problem with the teachers that we have today. We need to retrain or bring in new people who have been trained to operate a weapon around kindergartners.
Yeah, right.
Good luck.
Right. Why is that? This is so stupid. But just basic question. Why is that a better alternative than just having universal background checks?
Right.
Why is that a better alternative than saying, okay, you got to register that gun, just like you have to register your car? I mean, simple things, common sense things we could do, which would cost no money at all, instead of training every teacher, because it wouldn't just be kindergarten teachers, obviously, in the use of a gun. But what I love is his statement about you wouldn't just have the gun sitting on the teacher's desk. Well, one would hope not. But that's the point. So where is the gun going to be kept, right? Probably locked away. What are the chances that when the killer walks in the classroom, he's going to give the teacher time to go unlock the drawer where the gun is held and pull it out and use it?
Right.
Wait, just a minute.
Can
Hold
you
on.
stop shooting for a second?
Yeah, can you, right. Just like, again, Ben Carson's statement that he would have charged the guy. There wasn't time to charge the guy. When he walks in and starts firing with an automatic weapon, you just wonder how anybody could get so far. And may I remind you, he's number 2 in the polls.
Yeah.
Every single poll. In Iowa, in New Hampshire, nationwide. All right, New Hampshire, I think Carly may be ahead of him, but he's number 3. He shouldn't even be considered as a serious candidate. And he's second only to idiot Donald Trump. Trump, I think, look, Trump is a clown in many ways, but he has a lot more common sense than Ben Carson does.
That's fair.
You know?
I think that's fair.
Think about it. Trump.
That's not say that Trump has.
No, I'm not. It's right. I mean, Trump's with all his problems, but still,
I hear what you're saying.
I would rather have, if I.
You've really talked yourself into a corner here.
If I were on my deathbed or something, and I had one last vote, and somebody had a gun to my head and said there are only two people you can vote for, and you got to vote for one or the other, I'd vote for Trump over Ben Carson.
Yeah,
I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right.
Trump will at least fight for what he believes in, right? Like he'll put up a fight. But Carson just says things and expects for people to not say that is a crazy idea.
Oh,
that idea is insane.
No, you're not allowed to criticize
Ben
Carson. No, but this is the same guy who said he would never have a Muslim as president, right?
Yeah.
That basically would amend the Constitution to say if you're a Muslim, can't run for president. By the way, Carson was not the only one. As I mentioned, Bobby Jindal also got in it yesterday. If Trump blamed the victims for not charging the killer, Bobby Jindal blamed the father, the guy's father. Now, this killer's parents were divorced. The father lives in California. The kid lived with his mother in Oregon. People do get divorced. I mean, it's hardly the only couple out there, right? Divorced. But because of that, Bobby Jindal blames the father for not doing a good enough job of raising his son. It's his father's fault. Here's what he said. This killer's father is now lecturing us on the need for gun control, and he says he has no idea how or where his son got the guns. Yeah, he said he shouldn't have had any guns. He didn't even know he had one. Bobby Jindal. Of course he doesn't know how his son got the guns. You know why he doesn't know? Because he is not and never has been in his son's life. He's a complete failure as a father. He brags that he has never held a gun in his life and that he had no idea that his son had any guns. Why didn't he go? No, because he failed to raise his son. He should be ashamed of himself, and he owes us all an apology. Yeah. Don't blame the killer.
That's sick.
Don't blame the mother.
That's really sick.
I'm not blaming the mother, but at least she lived with him in Oregon. She might have had some idea that he had 14 guns in the house. Maybe. It's hard to believe you could have 14 guns in your house, your son have 14 guns in your house, and you not know it. But the father, who hadn't even seen his son in 2 years, again, that happens with divorced families when people are living in different states.
Sure.
And you blame the father. You know why? Because the father said the guns were the problem.
Yep.
The father said his son that there was no need for his son to have a gun, and he did know he had any. And the father came out. So it's just, I'm telling you. Ben Carson, Bobby Jindal. Bobby Jindal I don't worry about because he's just a blip, right? He's a joke. But Ben Carson, number 2 in the polls.
Man,
saying idiotic things like that. We just got to touch on this, and then quickly move on to talk to David Jackson. But this is too big a story to ignore today, and that is the president and starting with Eric Holder and now Loretta Lynch has talked a lot about recidivism, about prison reform, criminal justice reform is what the actual term is. That there are too many people in American prisons. First of all, number one, let's just stop there. There are too many people in American prisons. We have a quarter of the world's prison population in this country. We do not have anywhere close to 25% of the world's population, but we have 25% of the world's prison population in the United States, and too many of them are in prison for nonviolent crimes, drug-related crimes, because of all those maximum penalty laws that were passed starting under Ronald Reagan, under the stupid war on drugs, which has proven to be the biggest government boondoggle in the history of humankind. But at any rate, so President Obama has said we're going to do something about that. You may remember, I think it was in July, maybe August, he commuted the sentence of a good number of, he has now commuted the sentences more than all the other previous presidents combined, President Obama has, for people, again, who are in prison for long sentences for nonviolent crimes. Well, yesterday, the Justice Department, and the president has said we're going to look into it and see how many more we can release. Yesterday, the Justice Department announcing they are going to release 6,000 inmates from prisons. 6,000. That is huge. It's going to happen between October 30 and November 2nd. And, by the way, about a third of them, so 2,000, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Okay. My math is a little shaky.
It's early, but yes, you got it. You nailed it.
Are undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants, who will be, because they've been convicted of a crime, will be sent back to their country of origin. So the 4,000 of them will be Americans who will be released here in this country. But for 6,000 one time is huge.
It's a big...
And it's really President Obama following through on a promise that he made and something that's been crying out for reform. It's not just that it costs too much money to keep these people in prison. It's just unfair and it's wrong. And this is one issue where a lot of Republicans agree with the president. Even Chuck Grassley, Senator Chuck Grassley, former chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, now the ranking Republican, has always been the opponent of prison reform, criminal justice reform, until about last year. And he really got into it again, and he said, you know, I've changed my mind. This is a real problem. We ought to do this. Rand Paul agrees with the president on this. So he'll have a bipartisan support in Congress, I think, for this move. And it's a huge move and a move certainly in the right direction. And with that, we'll hang it up here for just a minute and then come back and say hello to David Jackson down at the White House for USA Today.
Like politics? Then like The Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is The Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
How I've been affected by gun violence over the years is through deaths of friends and family members and associates.
When I was 5 years old, I was held at gunpoint in a home invasion.
I've gone to the juvenile detention centers and I've met dozens of young kids, babies really, who have been affected by gun violence.
Directly, I've lost a few friends, but I think why this touches my heart is having children of my own.
You know, I've been at parties where, you know, I had just left the party and, you know, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, you know, I heard that, you know, somebody got shot and didn't make it.
There are a lot of people benefiting off of our pain, and it's time we do something.
I'm here to unload my investment because I think that it's important that we start kind of seeing where our money is going.
It's time to go to your financial advisor and demand that there are no gun investments in your 401k.
Even if you don't have investments, you can still help spread the word.
This is something everyone can do.
So if you push your people that have 401ks, it might be your grandma, it might be your cousin, this effort can make a big impact.
I'm unloading for my loved ones that I lost.
I'm unloading for my 18-year-old self.
I'm unloading my 401k for the future of my children.
I'm unloading.
I'm unloading
for my family and their future.
I'm unloading so that my daughter can grow up in a safe, loving world.
Unload and join the movement.
Use hashtag I'm unloading to pledge your support for gun-free investing.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour. Here we go. It is early on a Wednesday, but never too early for David Jackson to be at his post at the White House. Poor guy. He's going to have to get his own blueberry muffin today, because I'm not going to get down there.
Still haven't brought us blueberry muffins, Bill.
Oh, well, no. I only do that for my friends.
It was the highlight of the Pope's visit, your blueberry muffin, Bill.
That's what it was. Hello, David. How are you?
Fine, sir. How are you?
Good. Now, you've also been out on the road with, in addition to covering the White House, you've been out on the road a lot, particularly with the billionaire builder from New York, Donald Trump. And the latest polls give him, he's still hanging in there.
Well, not only hanging in there, but doing quite well. Quinnipiac University, which has, I think, a good polling unit, and they do go state by state. Their polls on the swing states, Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, just came out hot off the presses, and Trump is leading in all three. And what's interesting in that is, of course, that you have contenders are from these same states. For example, both Trump and Ben Carson are leading Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush in Florida.
Oh, wow.
Trump is also leading in Ohio, and he's zoomed past the governor there, John Kasich. So, I guess the reports of Trump's demise are still somewhat premature.
Well, he has said that as well. But, it's just that it's not just the national polls. I've heard people say, I guess what I'm getting at is that, Iowa, he may not even last through Iowa or New Hampshire, but these are states beyond those first two states. That's what's, I think, significant about this, right?
No, it's not. It's definitely national. For whatever reason, these Republican voters who participate in polls want an outsider candidate. I guess they're disgusted with what they see as the party establishment, so they're looking to Trump. They're also looking. Ben Carson is second in these states as well, and Carly Fiorina is doing well as well. So it seems like if you've been an office holder, that's a debit for you if you're running for the Republican presidential nomination.
Yeah, I must say I understand Trump more than I understand Ben Carson for sure. But
he's been around longer. There's been more. So I know what you're saying, but it does. It's becoming pretty obvious that Trump's going to have staying power now. What happens when people actually vote and what the actual numbers are going to be, I don't know. But it sure sounds like he's in. And also, I would point to you, the Washington Post just put up a story, an interview that Trump gave them where he talks about he's going to start putting up ads and developing the next phase, quote, the next phase of his campaign. So, he's definitely I suspect he's going to make it to Iowa, let's put it that way.
That's a good reminder that he hasn't spent any money on that yet. Neither is Bernie Sanders, by the way, on the other side, right?
Yeah, well, Sanders just got the money, so he's trying to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
In Trump's case, it's always been the big question is how much of his own money is he willing to put in. And that's one of the reasons people speculate that he might not be in it for the long haul, that he might not be that serious. But Trump told the Post that, yes, he is planning to spend some of his own money on what he calls unconventional ads. Another thing, Bill, about this Trump, it reminds me so much of the Ross Perot campaign because Ross also talked about unconventional ads. And did, in fact, have some unconventional television advertising. Trump said he's going to do the same thing.
Every time people have said, have tried to count Trump out, right, he has fooled them, right? Just from back in the days when a lot of people were speculating he would not even, he was just a tease. He wouldn't run, right, or he wouldn't file his papers, or he wouldn't release
no one took it even up to
statement.
I think his announcement was June 16th or something like that. And even up to the morning, people were saying he was going to bow out. Because he's been to the well several times, let's face it.
Right, yeah,
Talked about running 4 years ago. Remember, he talked about running for the Reform Party nomination in 1999. So.
Yeah. So big announcement from the Justice Department yesterday. We've talked about this at the White House. With the criminal justice reform, President following through big time.
Very much so, and it was interesting. He went to the Justice Department route rather than the pardon or clemency route. Yeah, there's not. it's been talked about in the White House for many years that was one of the plans. That they felt like there were too many people in prison who shouldn't have been there because they had excessive sentences for nonviolent drug offenses, and they are looking for ways to get those people out. And the Justice Department took action yesterday with, I got 6,000 prisoners, and and I still think you're going to see a lot more pardons and commutations from President Obama the closer he gets out of office. You know, the new vogue among presidents is they wait until the last minute to do a lot of the pardons and commutations. I think you'll see the same thing with this president, and it will involve a lot of drug offenders.
So these 6,000 prisoners, the Justice Department can just they're from federal prisons, I would imagine. So the Justice Department could just decide, they've served enough time, and we're going to let them out without a judge's ruling or a congressional.
I think they can, because it's basically the equivalent. You know, local jurisdictions will spring guys because their prisons are too crowded. I think the feds are basically using the same principle. I think it's probably legal.
Yeah. Also, I wasn't able to make the briefing yesterday, but I know the question came up about because the president and the vice president were having lunch. What are they talking about? And was Joe telling Barack, I've already made up my mind? And could he juggle both? But others have run for vice presidents have run for president, right? Or at least Al Gore.
Sure. Well, Al Gore did.
Sure.
And Al Gore there was a lot more tension between Al Gore and the Clinton administration than there was between Biden and the Obama administration.
Right. So, of course, he can juggle those, and the White House will have to also juggle kind of trying to remain neutral. Right?
Yes, I think that's been a concern. There have been people who have been talking to the White House. You know, Joe Biden is a key negotiator on the Hill because that's something the president doesn't particularly like to do. And we got these budget negotiations coming up between now and December 11th, and I think people envision a major role for Vice President Biden. So there is some concern about a conflict conceivably, but I think the people at the White House, I don't think they know whether Biden's going to jump in or not, but if he wants to, I think they're perfectly happy with it.
I got to tell you, I was surprised yesterday. I attended the memorial service for Julian Bond. You know, he's a great civil rights leader.
Guy.
And, President Obama didn't have a busy schedule yesterday, but I was just surprised he was not there. It was a tremendous tribute, and it was down on U Street at the Lincoln Theater.
That does surprise me. I confess I didn't know about it either, but I was a big admirer of Julian Bond, and he was just a great go-to guy for journalists. So it was a very sad case.
Yeah, it was a celebration of civil rights for sure, and a lot of the veteran civil rights leaders of the country were all there. You know, it's just everybody was whispering, "Oh, wouldn't be surprised if we have a surprise visit from the White House." And nothing.
What time was it?
2:00. Yesterday afternoon.
Yeah,
right after lunch.
You're right, I am surprised.
Nothing on the schedule.
Nope.
All right, David, we'll see you a little bit later at the briefing. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Bill.
David Jackson, usatoday.com.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
Should I put the water in there now? Yeah, go ahead.
This is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiends yelling at me. Help me. Show your hands. Help me. Show your hands. Back to
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, dude.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Just get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
And it's something like, it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street?
Depends.
Or
I mean, a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging,
yeah. Right, exactly. And then, obviously, we're looking for training for anything else that we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is, we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
All right, John Allen from Vox, chief political reporter, political correspondent, will be along at the top of the next hour. And a little bit later, Avery Friedman joins us from CNN, their weekend legal correspondent. Betsy Woodruff here from the Daily Beast. Lots more coming up here on this Wednesday edition of the Bill Press Show. And don't forget, you get a chance to throw your voice in by calling us at 866-55-PRESS.
This
We'll be right back.
is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Pistons fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people had lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
You want criminal justice reform? We got it! 6,000 prisoners, the Justice Department announcing yesterday, will be released in long-time prison sentence from long-time sentences for non-violent drug-related crimes. Hello, everybody. With that big bit of big news, we kick off the Bill Press Show on this Wednesday, October 7. We are here in Washington, D.C. Wherever you are in this great country of ours, we're there with you on the radio, And we're there with you on television, on the radio, your local progressive talk radio station, or one of the great free radio apps, either TuneIn or iHeartRadio. They're free. Download them. Follow us on the radio wherever you go. And then on television, of course, it's Free Speech TV, nationwide and worldwide on our video stream, Talker TV. Joining us here this morning for this first half hour of our second hour together, Chief Political Correspondent for Vox. And if you were up an hour and a half ago, you saw him on MSNBC. My God, hour and a half ago, you were already on television. Hello, John Allen.
Good morning to you and to Peter and to all of the inebriates on the West Coast.
I know, we get them early.
Some of them are running for office.
It's rare that we have someone in here that actually starts work earlier than we do. So
yeah,
it depends on the day.
Yeah. But
I may go home and go back to sleep for a while.
That's fair.
Good to see you and joining the team here. Also early risers, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hey.
We're here.
We're not necessarily awake.
No.
But we're here.
Existing.
Ray Rogers on the phones at 866-55-PRESS. Give us a call. Tell us what you think about the issues of the day. Cyprian Bolding overseas in Madrid for this week. So Monty Chancellor is here as our videographer. And, you know, John, we've been talking a lot about Donald Trump. And the question is that people are often asking, how did Democrats pull off getting Donald Trump to run for president? Stephen Colbert asked that question last night of Bill Clinton, former president.
There's a rumor out there, and you feel free to dispel this. Did you call Donald Trump and ask him to run for president of the United States?
No.
Because that would be pretty smart, man.
Yeah, I get credit for doing a lot of things I didn't do like that.
Credit.
Oh, man.
A funny moment that just raises all kinds of... Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it would have been pretty smart if they said, you know, Donald, why don't you run? I think it'd be a good year for you to run, huh?
I think that's been the story that's been out there. That they at least spoke beforehand. I guess is at the very least, I'm sure Bill Clinton didn't discourage him from running.
Right. Remember, Hillary came to his wedding.
Hillary went to his wedding. I don't know the level to which there's collusion here versus a common interest in Donald Trump running, but he certainly has done a pretty good job of elevating pretty much every issue that the Republican Party doesn't want to talk about, right, and elevating every portion of the Republican Party that the Republican Party would like to sweep under the rug.
Even to point yesterday where Jeb Bush said he would vote for Donald Trump. They finally have to acknowledge that there's a maybe still remote, but possibility he could end up being the nominee.
I think you've seen Donald Trump coming toward the Republican Party and the Republican Party coming toward Donald Trump. I mean, maybe some of these guys will take it back after the primary. But maybe not. You know, there is an argument to be made that the Republican Party is completely lost right now. I mean, if you look at what's going on in the House leadership elections, if you look at the presidential race. So I think, that's the easy part of the argument. The Republican Party's lost. Then the second part of the argument is they need somebody around whom to rally, and it may not be somebody that's sort of in their midst to begin with. I mean, you know, Ronald Reagan was a governor of California, ran in 1976, but I think he was somebody who, like Trump in a way, kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of Republicans, and then and had this, you know, charisma on the stage. He was appealing to white working class Democrats in a way that a lot of the Republicans weren't before, and a lot of Democrats have not been at times recently. I mean, they're going to have to reform around somebody.
Yeah,
it may not be Donald Trump, but at least that's a possibility.
We got it. So John Allen here, and then Avery Friedman joins us in the next hour from CNN, legal analyst, Betsy Woodruff from Daily Beast. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple other stories making news. Nice knowing you, gentlemen. I don't know if you knew this, but the world is ending.
Are you leaving? Oh, the world's...
Today is the end of the world. According to E-Bible Fellowship, that is an online church that some people believe in, they put out a statement earlier this week that said, quote, According to what the Bible is presenting, it does appear that the 7th of October will be the day that God has spoken of, in which the world will pass away. So the world is ending today. So, don't pay that credit card bill or
Why did
whatever
I
you have
just hear
outstanding.
that this morning? Why didn't they tell me
It's just I'm
Why
here
didn't
to
you
tell
tell
you.
me
I'm
yesterday?
here to tell you. They didn't specify a time that the world is going to end, but at some point today.
There's no percentage in predicting the end of the world. If you're right, no one's there to pat you on the back. If you're wrong, everyone mocks you.
All the signs are there, so who knows?
All the signs are there. Yeah.
Yeah. We go to Ohio, where a 22-year-old man had a bit of a rough evening on Friday night. He had to call the police because he was, quote, too high on marijuana. Not a joke. Not a joke. This actually happened in Austintown, Ohio. A boy, or 22-year-old man, I should say, called the police because he was at his parents' house. When the police walked in, they found him among several embarrassing pothead cliches. This is directly from the police report. The officer walked into the doorway and observed, redacted, laying on the floor in the fetal position. He was surrounded by a plethora of Doritos, Pepperidge Farm Goldfish, and Chips Ahoy cookies. Redacted told the officer, quote, I cannot feel my hands.
This guy deserves an award.
Of course, it's Austin.
Yeah,
Ohio.
right.
But
So
he gets to the phone. He calls.
He made it to the phone somehow.
Even though he couldn't feel his hands, he was able to call.
That's what Siri is for. Siri, call the police. Siri, help me. And how about this? We're not too far off, actually, from having our own Iron Man. The U.S. military is closer than ever to putting together an Iron Man costume for certain soldiers to wear. Now, it's not going to be able to fly, and it's not going to be equipped with all the artillery that the Iron Man costume is equipped with. But what they're calling this is liquid armor. Liquid armor. Quote, real-life body armor that can solidify on command. So one of the reasons that they even took a look at this is there was a story out of Afghanistan where a commando kicked a door in, and behind the door there was a lot of trouble, guns and explosives. And so if you kick the door in, you have this armor that just solidifies. Poof! Like you can just you click on it and it just, boom, whatever you have on. So it's fluid like clothing while you're moving, and then if you need it to just block things, it will block things. They said that we're only 2 years out from having that go into operation.
Well, it's too bad that thank you, Peter. Too bad I want to use that as a transition. It's too bad we're not just like 6 days out from having the Iron Man, because they could use it maybe in next week's Democratic debate. Hillary could use it when Bernie fires or vice versa or whatever. What do you expect to come out of this debate?
Here's what I expect a couple of things to happen. Number one, I don't think you're going to hear Bernie Sanders go after Hillary Clinton a lot because it damages his brand to do that. It's hard to walk around saying you never run negative ads and go into a debate stage.
He's Mr. Nice Guy.
No, he's not going to do that. But
I expect her also to try to refrain from being nasty about him, though I think she's a little more inclined to kind of take some swings. I think the real test for me watching this is going to be twofold. Number one, is she as good in the debate as she was in the debates in 2008 in the primaries? Because I think that was her strongest.
Yes, she was good.
Venue. Right. Is she better? Is she the same? Has she lost a step? And number two, from Sanders, what I want to see is, can he get off his stump speech? He's very good on a few issues that he talks about a lot, both in the speech and in Q&As. I want to see if he's able to delve deeply into policy beyond the things that he's sort of staked his career on.
I don't know whether it was your story. I read a story earlier this morning that people expect her to say about Bernie, you're right, there will be no personal attacks, neither one of them. But, I agree with, where he's going, but his answers are just not realistic, right? His solutions are politically impossible or just naive or something like that. So I'm just as big a progressive as him, but I'm for real.
Which is I would argue is a really dumb place for her to come from in a Democratic debate. And the reason that I say that is we saw her do that before. She did it against Barack Obama in 2008. She said, boy, he's really naive. His solutions won't work. He's way out there. I'm serious. I'm going to get the job done. And I think that with Democratic insiders, that argument works well with Sanders and better than it did against Obama, because Sanders is a couple hops to the left of Obama. And they've watched him for 25 years in Washington vote against things but not get a whole lot done. With the Democratic electorate saying the things that you guys believe in can't really get done, I don't know that that's a path to winning, to inspiring people. Finding ways to make people believe that the things you're going to get done or the things that they want might be a better approach.
Now, one area where she has certainly outpaced Bernie Sanders on the progressive side is guns, which she came out this week. Were you surprised at how strongly her position? I mean, she's talked about taking on the NRA.
Yeah, I think this is safe political ground for a Democrat. I think that gun owners who vote Republican believe that any Democratic president's going to come take their guns away. They believed it about Barack Obama. They're going to believe it about
Hillary Clinton. They still say it about Barack Obama.
Right. So there's no downside in terms of a general election. And in a Democratic primary, there's no downside to being super tough on guns. I mean, if you go back and look at what the Kennedys were saying after JFK was killed, after Bobby Kennedy was killed, they're making pretty strong arguments against guns and against the NRA in particular. So I think there's a long history of this, and maybe sometimes we forgot it because Democrats got scared about talking about guns in the wake of the 2000 election. Al Gore, lost West Virginia, and people thought it was maybe about that as opposed to West Virginia's electorate changing. I think the really important thing that I see, though, in that gun talk is the executive order piece, where she says,
you're right.
I'm going to close the gun show loophole. And I think, if you talk to her campaign people, what they'll tell you is they're signaling that they're serious about getting something done because they know that the legislative arena isn't good enough. So they've looked for a place to do that. But I think even more broadly than that, she's been talking about executive orders on a bunch of different policies, executive actions, getting more prosecution of Wall Street wrongdoing. I think that seriousness of purpose is important because right now with a divided government, the only thing you can do is the executive order stuff, and we should be listening to what presidential candidates are saying about that, not about what bills they would pass.
I was with an attorney friend yesterday who told me there is a liberal attorney friend who told me yesterday there is no way that she can, by executive order, end the close the gun show loophole because of 2 Supreme Court decisions and the Constitution of the United States, among other things.
Well, so that may be. I mean, lawyers will disagree.
But does that matter? Politically, probably not.
Politically, it doesn't matter. And number 2, what we've seen with Obama is go ahead, do the executive order. Let someone sue you, see who has standing to sue you, if they're willing to sue you, and whether the courts will, in fact, put in some sort of injunction, to prevent the executive order from going into place.
But so
in this case,
you
by the
say
way, it's a rulemaking as opposed to, it's more of a traditional administration policy change rather than just a single fiat.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I hope she does it. I would certainly support it, but legally she may have some problems. But so you said it's certainly a good strategy for her as a Democratic candidate to win the Democratic primary. Is it a good general election strategy to be as tough as she is on guns?
I think at this point it is. I think the American public's tired of watching the massacres, and I think that sometimes doing something, even if you could look at what's being done and say that might not have stopped this incident or that incident, I think it can be cathartic and probably misleading a little bit in terms of how much it gets done. But I think the public's tired of seeing this. I hope the public's tired of seeing this. And I don't see somebody paying a big penalty in an election for making an effort to stop this from happening.
We are already, I hope you appreciate the fact, we are already 20 minutes into this hour with John Allen, and we've been talking about Hillary Clinton, and the word email has not come up. How about that? We're on a roll here. We'll be right back. Your questions, your comments, always welcome.
We have to talk about Benghazi first, and then the email.
That's right. We haven't talked about either one.
Benghazi.
Right.
We'll be right back. 866-55-PRESS.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
When when I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think. I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Taking your emails at BillPressShow.com. Don't worry, we'll keep all of our emails on a private server in Chappaqua, New York. This is The Bill Press Show.
I knew we'd end up talking about email 25 minutes after the hour.
Blame Jamie for that.
With Jonathan Allen from Vox, chief political correspondent, Vox.com. We're going to talk water. How important is it? And not just for people of California. With the director of the D.C. Water Company here, the agency, George Hawkins, in the next half hour. John, the question was from Stephen Colbert whether Bill Clinton had called Donald Trump and told him and encouraged him to run. Did you call the owner of the Nats and encourage them to fire Matt Williams?
I did not, but I tweeted about it repeatedly.
We know.
I was on the fire Matt Williams
We know.
bandwagon.
Yeah, it didn't take him long.
No, and there was a lot of encouragement. Like the Washington Post pulled out, I think, 11 games that the Nats should have won that they lost that would have put them in the playoffs. So if you're the general manager, you know that the owners read the Washington Post. Maybe you get rid of the manager before they start thinking about the GM.
Yeah.
Now I think Rizzo's done a good job as GM, with the exception of hiring Matt Williams. And I think this whole idea that you hire people who are good players to be managers often does not work. Ted Williams
Snyder-esque.
Ted Williams was a terrible manager in part because he couldn't. He got frustrated that the players couldn't play as well as he could.
Right.
I don't think that was Matt Williams' problem. I think Matt Williams is a smart guy who's obviously has been around the game a long time and not absorbed it enough.
In the wrong place. I want to come back to where we started with the Democratic debate. It's 6 days from now. Is Joe Biden going to be on stage?
No. At least that's the word coming from his camp, is that he wouldn't jump into the debate at this late time. So, look, it's better for him to see how things play out. If Hillary Clinton stumbles, there's more reason to get in. If she looks really strong,
more reason to stay out?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The closest I've gotten, I haven't talked to anybody in the inner circle late in the last few days or anything, but I've talked to some people a concentric circle out, and they're still saying 50-50. I think the zigzag is indicative of what's going on in Joe Biden's heart, right? I think he's always wanted to be president of the United States, and he's just maybe not in a place.
At some point, there's too much water under the bridge, or it's just too late for him to come in.
Yeah, fairly soon. I mean, it looks bad to be wavering for as long as he has, and I think people gave him a lot of space on that. And but if you're going to run the country, you've got to be able to, move forward at some point. And, so I don't know. I think people will give him space on that for a little while longer, but he's got filing deadlines.
I know. I think they've given him a lot of space, and I think he's going to have to make a decision here.
Should he run? What do you think?
Yeah, I think he should run, but he's got to, get moving. John Allen, thanks for coming in.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea,
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's 33 minutes after the hour, The Bill Press Show, booming out to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and our studio on Capitol Hill. Good to see you today. We're brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers. Yes, the good men and women of the Teachers of America. Members of the AFT under President Randy Weingarten, making a difference in our classrooms every day. You bet. Doing the Lord's work, we salute them and thank them for the support of the program. You can find out more by going to their website at aft.org. Imagine this. Imagine a day without water. There's something we take for granted, for sure. But there's a big story behind it. And there's a big campaign launched yesterday to make us aware of where we get our water and what should be done to maybe maintain those supplies and maybe, to get even more of it. Let's find out about it. We wanted to find out about this campaign. Nobody better than the manager of our water utility here in the nation's capital, called DC Water. George Hawkins joins us in studio. Hey, George, good to see you.
Good morning, Bill. Glad to be here.
I thank you for a good glass of DC's best tap water, which I had this morning. And I mixed my iced tea with DC tap water.
He's not just hamming it up, by the way. Bill
always brag about the
big
fact.
fan of DC tap water.
That is awesome. We have great, cool tap water ready 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every minute, and we're delighted you use it. It's a wonderful product.
I keep people, friends of mine, they spend all this money on bottled water.
1,000 times more expensive. It's not as clean. Our water's better. By the way, we do a taste test outside of metro stations, blind taste test against bottled water. More than 60% of the people who take a double blind, so our staff doesn't know which one we're giving and the person taking the test, say that our tap water is better than bottled water. And a straight out blind taste test, and it is 1,000 times less expensive. It is at your tap. If you want to carry it around in a water bottle. We have something called the Tap It campaign, which you could get on your phone, which has more than 300 institutions in D.C. that will refill your water bottle with cool tap water for free. So just have a recycled water, tap it, walk around the city. You'll save money. You'll have better water. It's right at ready all the time.
This is my man.
Yeah, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. And we live right here on Capitol Hill, by the way.
Yep, absolutely.
Just a block from here. It's great. Yeah. No, when I go to a restaurant, they always say, what you want? The sparkling, or do you want to, I always say, I want Marion Barry's finest.
Absolutely. And we deliver it and it's a great part of this whole process. The water utilities of the country have been so good at their business, which is what we do, that most people don't think that every morning when they walk in and the water's ready all the time, where it comes from. When it comes out of the tap, this vast array of steps that are taken to make sure that that water is ready every minute and that it's clean to exacting standard. It is monitored thousands of times to make sure that it's at the ready. We're so good that most people don't even think about that miracle.
No, we do
of
take
having
it.
drinking water.
No, we take it for granted, for sure.
And
right?
then when the water goes down the drain, so we use it for any of the reasons we use water, it goes down the drain and we clean it for you before it goes back to the Potomac. We run the largest recycling system in any place that we exist, which is everywhere, because the water comes out of the system, we clean it, get it ready, we all use it, it goes down the drain, we take it back, we clean it again to exacting standards, it goes right back here, it's all from the Potomac and back to the Potomac. And that's done with a vast system that's out there, and most people don't think about it. And that's our challenge. We've done so well at our job that people take this absolutely precious, essential service for granted. And the challenge, and there's a victory in that we've done well enough. You go travel anywhere in the rest of the world, and providing water is one of the biggest challenges in the day. Often women needing to get water every single day or carry it on their heads, on their backs. It's tremendously difficult. It's often not clean. More children die from waterborne illnesses in the world than all the world wars of the world combined. And here we deliver it. But if our customers don't know who we are, that means they also may not think of the cost it takes to deliver that service.
Well, we talk about, I just got to stop. You said something about children, more children die of waterborne diseases?
Waterborne diseases. In the rest of the world, it is a tragedy.
Then all the wars?
All the wars that are occurring now, and it's a terrible statistic, but so many, cholera and malaria, there's so many problems that can be initiated by not having clean water, independent of how much effort is taken day after day after day just to get it.
Right.
And here we in this country have it ready 24 hours a day. It's a remarkable
So we talk about infrastructure and the problems with infrastructure in this country, that we're not spending enough just to keep our systems up. And I guess that would include water delivery systems, right? Or water purification systems.
I would say absolutely.
Water treatment plants.
Water treatment plants, both when you prepare it on the drinking water side, take it back and clean it. We call it enriched water at DC Water, but wastewater is sewage. And we'll call it enriched water for a reason I'll come back to. But the startling fact, the American Society of Civil Engineers, we improved in the grade that they gave us for drinking water in this city because we went from a D- to a D. Now, that is an incredible calamity for an essential service. People ask me, how many jobs do you support with your water? And I always say, all of them. You cannot have a certificate of occupancy. You can't get in your building. You cannot have your operation if you don't have drinking water, wastewater, and fire flow to your building. And we do that for every job in this city and every other city. And how many living organisms do you support? I always say, all of them. Water is the only element that's essential to every life form as we know it. And we have a system that delivers it that's rated at a D. That's a crisis that threatens a cornerstone of what we've taken for granted in modern civilization in this country.
Is any water ever wasted?
There's a lot of water wasted, and that's one of the attributes of having an older system. When you have older pipes, they leak more. There's a lot of more loss in the system before we can deliver it. So in most parts of the country, including D.C., we'll treat 100 million gallons, but only 80 million of that will, just by word of example, will actually get to a customer because you have loss along the way. And that comes from having older pipes. The median age of a water main in our fair city, probably the pipes right out in the street here, median age is 79 years, which means half the pipes are older than that.
Yeah.
And we have pipes in
George
this city.
Washington laid some of these pipes.
Actually, not to George Washington, but to Abraham Lincoln. We have pipes in Washington, D.C. that were put in place before the Civil War.
Whoa!
In our fair city, and we have sewers that are probably older than that. Now, the men and women who did this work way back when...
It's nice to know I'm using the same sewer Abraham Lincoln did. Whoa.
It's sort of an amazing... We do have... And this is the older part of the city.
Yeah. Georgetown?
And, Georgetown, center of the city, where the White House is, that's some of our older pipes because that's the oldest part of the city. And we're busily replacing them. We're upgrading the system. But that goes back to this notion of people don't know.
Yeah.
We have to raise rates on people's bills to pay for the simple cost of taking these old systems out and putting new pipes, new pump stations, new technologies, new approaches in the system. And if our customers don't know who we are or what we do, they're not going to want to pay the money necessary to deliver this life-giving resource. And that doesn't surprise me. If you ask someone to pay more for something, my reaction would be, why? Give me a reason that I should invest more of my money into your system.
So what is the overall goal? I mean, you are part of this national campaign to raise awareness, I guess, right? About
Absolutely.
Water delivery, water services. Imagine a day without water. What's the overall goal? At the end of it, what do you want people to be doing or know?
Our overall goal is for people to take stock, at least for a moment, about the incredible essential nature of the service that they're delivered every day, and to think for a moment about the systems that deliver it to them, so that they can also be connected into the value of what we're delivering and the cost.
Wherever they happen to be in this country.
Wherever they
right?
are, because we're everywhere. I mean, it's this industry that's fundamental, as I said, to every job and every living organism. And yet most people don't think of it. And if they don't think of us and are not aware of us, they're not going to want to be who invest in it. That's a natural state. It doesn't bother me. That's exactly the way a consumer should be. We don't make our case. Someone shouldn't pay us more. But we are making our case. The value of water is part of a coalition of people who've come together from the water utility, businesses that rely on water. More water is delivered for the production of energy than is delivered to residential users in the country. You cannot have power in this country without having water at the ready. As I said, every industry, every job, it's just this incredibly important, essential element, and we need people to realize it so they're willing to invest in it so we can deliver better service for them. This is all to ultimately give good service to our customers.
What about rainwater? Is it just wasted because it just runs off and runs into the sewers or the storm pipes or whatever?
Absolutely. Well,
storm drains.
We're in the midst of a huge and fascinating change on that front. For the longest period of time, you're exactly right. All of the systems we have, particularly in cities, was to get rainwater off of city streets as fast as possible into pipes, and usually piped right to a river where we're on its merry way, which is not good in by itself, because anything that's on the street, all that stuff that's out there, which includes the dog poo from the walk in the morning and all the leaves and oil and grease, everything gets washed right with it, right into our rivers. But the idea was stormwater as a problem. What we're realizing now is that that's a resource, particularly in parts of the summer, which parts of the country that are in drought, which is off and on all over the country.
Sure.
So now, for example, in Washington, D.C., there are regulations that require all new developments to retain the first 1.2 inches of rainfall. That's a lot of rain on site to be used for good deeds. All the greenery we want to plant on a site, you don't need to use clean, potable drinking water for that. That's what rainwater can be used for. If you design your site in mind of how you would hold it, so you have the kind of pavement or structures that will allow rainwater to sink into the ground, we call it green infrastructure. We're trying to mimic the natural environment in the built environment to get the benefits of trees and all the green that we can add, which adds so much to our life and quality of life anyways. It also holds that water on site and uses stormwater as a resource. The other advantage is if that rainwater is being held on site right outside this building, for example, it doesn't go into our sewers. And in 772 communities in the United States, the sewers that were put in place are called combined sewers, so that the same huge sewer that takes sewage from the building also takes rainwater, which is why they're called combined. But when a lot of rain hits, those sewers fill and overflow. And now this is a mixture of sewage, rainwater into our rivers and sometimes city streets. That's a terrible calamity. DC Water currently is building the largest public works, something you probably didn't know, the largest public works project going on in Washington, D.C., and the biggest since Metro. We're doing right now to solve that problem.
Tell us more about it. We're going to take a quick break and find out about that. Exciting stuff going on. And again, I love the head of this campaign, the title of the campaign, because it really does get you thinking. Imagine a day without water. I bet you can. 866-55-PRESS. If you have a question or comment anywhere in the country, we'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TalkerTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour, Avery Friedman, the one and only legal correspondent for CNN, in studio with us at the top of the next hour. We're talking water everywhere, not a drop to drink, as the old thing goes. There's a lot of great water to drink here in Washington, D.C., thanks to George Hawkins and his team at DC Water. They're part of a national campaign launched yesterday to make us more aware of this resource that we depend on so much. And the campaign is Imagine a Day Without Water. You started to tell us about something very exciting going on here with the DC Water in about 3 hours from now.
Yes, today's a great day for DC Water, our industry, and really for the many public agencies that do the work. Because Mayor Bowser and a whole set of dignitaries will be with us down at our Blue Plains Advanced Treatment Facility. It used to be called a wastewater plant. As I mentioned, we call it enriched water at DC
Enriched water, I like that.
And here's how. And here's why. Because everything that comes to us is a resource if we're smart about how to use it. In ecology, the waste of any one organism is the fuel for another, and we're learning from Mother Nature now, not trying to control it. And what we're kicking off later today is a digester facility that takes all the sludge, all the material that we don't want in the water, we take out at Blue Plains. That's what we do. But it used to be called a waste, and we think of that in that era it was only a wasted asset because it's full of energy. It's full of nutrients.
Away or something.
We would treat it and truck it off. And now what we've done, and we're kicking off today, is a digester facility that's turning it into clean, permanent green power. 13 megawatts of total power. That's enough for 16,000 homes, although we'll use all that power on site because the treatment facility is so big. And it's using a technology that has never been used in North America nor anywhere at the world at the scale that we're using it. And we've invested $470 million. This is the ratepayers. This is the people in this room, it's you, Bill, who helped pay for this. It's your facility. This is a public agency. But we had 40 published papers that were done, peer-reviewed, to demonstrate that this technology would work. We field tested it. We have built it. It is going online today. And it's taking this sludge and turning it into permanent green power, which can be done at every plant around the country using this technology.
So you're taking sludge, you're taking waste, and you're converting it into energy, right? And
yes, that's one of the parts of it. And there's another great part, because here you have this sludge. It goes into something called Cambi, which is like a pressure cooker. It cooks it at high temperature and high heat. And when that comes out, the cell walls burst, goes into these huge digesters. They're 7 stories tall, 13 stories wide. These little bugs generate the methane. Methane is then burned right in a jet engine to generate the power. But then the material that comes out afterwards has been sterilized, because at high heat after the bugs, it is clean, and it is now an organic-based fertilizer that we're going to turn into a product. All of that is resources that go back to our benefit, our ratepayers. It's incredibly good for the environment. We're cutting our carbon footprint by a third. This is not reducing the increase or stopping the increase. This is reducing our carbon footprint, and we're the largest single power user in Washington, D.C.
Congratulations. Good for D.C. Now, we just have about a minute left. I have to ask you, I'm from California. What do we do about the drought?
The drought is a challenge that we've seen all over the country. It's mainly using water smartly, using it less wastefully, so we use it less for green lawns and areas. It's nice to have when you can do it, but we cut that out. And then every drop is preserved. So stormwater techniques that you hold on site, every bit of water that you can reuse, you do. We start to clean it on site and reuse it on site. You don't need tap water to flush a toilet. You can use water that you've collected off your roof for those sorts of steps. So what is really causing us to do is rethink water from soup to nuts, use every drop wisely, and I think then we'll find we have enough.
People make fun of me still because I believe in the California motto, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. That's still a wise rule, isn't it?
And it's part of the whole ethic of using every bit of water smartly, and that's certainly one of them.
Right. So I'm not such a old hippie after all, right?
We love the idea of folks focusing on water. Imagine it if you didn't have it. And, you know, people say when you don't have water for a minute, it's a calamity, because what's the toilet?
Yeah.
What about brushing my teeth, cooking, preparing food for my children?
No.
And that's what we want people to think about.
You go to the tap and you turn it on, nothing there. Then you realize how vital and how important, how wonderful the supply of water is. Imagine a day without water. Hey, George, great half hour. Thank you so much for coming in.
I've been so delighted to be here. Thank you, Bill. It's been great.
Thank you. All right, I'll be right back and tell you what's on the president's schedule on this Wednesday, October 7th.
Like politics? Then like The Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hour number 3, just about ready to go, so don't go anywhere. You will have to wait on Free Speech TV, of course, until 5 o'clock Eastern, but we'll be there for you. Join us then, or if you want to watch right away, you know how to do it. Go over to our video stream, Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV, and watch us on your iPad or your desktop or your iPhone or whatever. At the top of the next hour, Avery Friedman, legal analyst for CNN, will be here in studio with us, and then Betsy Woodruff from the Daily Beast, a big third hour coming up. Stay tuned.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
should I get back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat the threat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents?
5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched? Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Let's get America working. We must build, maintain, and repair our nation's crumbling infrastructure. Teamsters support a bipartisan approach to creating good jobs for American workers. Learn more at letsgetamericaworking.com. Teamsters strong, America stronger.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We'll be back with Avery Friedman from CNN, legal analyst, here at the top of the next hour. Meanwhile, President Obama, very busy schedule today. He and the Vice President get the daily briefing. Then they have a meeting with the President of Germany in the Oval Office. There's a White House summit on worker voice today. The President will be delivering remarks there at about 12:20 this afternoon. Then he has a big meeting with Secretary of State John Kerry. Vice President will be there for that as well. And then the President back at the White House Summit on Worker Voice late in the afternoon. And our briefing with Josh Earnest at 1 o'clock today. Back with Avery
This
Friedman.
is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
You want criminal justice reform? You got it. 6,000 prisoners will be released end of the month, announced the Justice Department yesterday. President Obama made that promise, following through. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? Here we go on a Wednesday, October 7th, the Bill Press Show. Booming out to you live from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and we are there with you everywhere in this great land of ours, on the radio and on television. On the radio, of course, on your local progressive talk radio station, and on television on Free Speech TV. And if you are somewhere outside of the country, anywhere on the planet, you can also still follow us on your electronic device, whatever it is, by going to youtube.com/talker, TAWKR-TV. I was out yesterday, in a big event here in Washington, D.C., which we'll tell you about. And everybody, they said, "Oh, my God, Bill, you're with this famous guy from CNN, Avery Friedman. You'd be amazed." And here he is in studio with us this morning. Hello, Avery.
Hey, they did. It seems like only yesterday.
It does, doesn't it?
Well, it's great to be back with you, Bill.
Nice to have you here in studio with us. A frequent guest on the show by phone, but you're in town, so we're glad you made time for us this morning to join our team, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
Hello, good morning.
Here we are.
Great team.
It's nice to have Avery in studio. We always have him on the phone. It's
I know.
nice to have you in
Good
here.
to be back. It really is.
People can see,
We always have a good time.
You can put a face with a voice.
No matter how serious it is, we always have a good time. By the way, those 6,000 that are being released,
yes,
they're going to your house.
Oh, is that right? Oh, good.
That's the way that's going to work.
Yeah, Karen and I loved
you didn't see that in the article in the Post.
We love to entertain. Yeah, right. Ray Rogers here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And if you're looking at us, thank Monty Chancellor, our videographer, for the day. And, in this this presidential race, on the Democratic side, Hillary's getting a lot of attention. Bernie Sanders getting a lot of attention. A lot of talk about whether Joe's going to jump in or not. Poor Martin O'Malley. He's a good guy,
Who?
Martin. Yeah, right. And that's the problem.
Future Transportation Secretary Martin O'Malley.
So Jay Leno actually resurfaced last night on late night. He stepped in for Jimmy. Jimmy Fallon was there, but he brought Jay Leno in to do the monologue because he said he had a sore throat or something like that. But Jay Leno had a little fun at Martin O'Malley's expense.
Martin O'Malley, ex-governor of Maryland, you know him? He's running for president. See, nobody knows him. He's 2% in the polls, 2%. He's been in the race for 8 months, and he's only tied with low-fat milk. That's not good. That's not good. Oh, how about this?
Brutal.
Could be 1%.
That's right. You mean like Bobby Jindal? No, or even less. Yeah, I'll tell you. But lots to talk about here with Avery Friedman. Good to have him with us. And Betsy Woodruff from Daily Beast will join us at the half hour. But first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. We go to Michigan, where Julie Leach is your latest Powerball jackpot winner. Yes, indeed.
Damn,
She came forward. You didn't buy your
week.
tickets?
You
missed out, Bill.
Yeah.
You missed out. Julie Leach won $310.5 million. That is the state's second largest winner ever. She came forward yesterday, and she decided to take the lump sum, which comes out to $197.4 million.
I'd be happy with that.
In cold, hard cash.
Yeah.
What's she going to do with the money?
Well, don't know. But then, she's going to pay taxes on.
I was going to say.
Well, that's
half of it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the beauty of the lump sum thing. Right?
Would you take the lump sum?
Yes, I would.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely would.
Okay, absolutely.
I mean, I'm not sure how they factored all out.
That I didn't buy a ticket.
I told you.
I did last week.
I did tell you to buy a ticket, Bill. I mean,
he could have been the winner.
He could have been the
Julie
winner.
Leach.
I would have been.
Of the Leach family, the well-known Leach family.
Exactly.
Actually, we all know Leaches.
Exactly. You want to get a cheap burrito at Chipotle on Halloween? They're going to help you out. They're giving away $3 burritos to anyone who comes into Chipotle dressed with a, quote, unnecessary addition to their Halloween outfit of choice. What that means is if you dress up like a vampire You have to come in wearing like a sombrero or a tutu or something that doesn't fit. You know what I mean? Something that doesn't make sense.
This is getting too complicated.
It is very, very complicated.
You know
I agree. I don't
Just
like
give a
this.
burrito. Anybody comes in with in an outfit.
And who makes that judgment, by the way?
That's
Yeah, right.
You know,
right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
That's a good point. They say that
There could be a lot. There could be some lawsuits here, dude.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, depending on how bizarre the combination is. And
Yeah.
if the manager comes out and says, yeah, I just don't think it meet our standard, you're at Chipotle.
You say, I'm going to hire Avery Friedman. I'm gonna sue you.
I'll be back in the district.
So if the $3, by the way, this reason they're charging that is because all of the proceeds that they get from that are going to go to charity. So at least that's the good part there. So
or defense fund.
Or defense fund. And how about this? Back in 2009, a man by the name of Skylar Benson had his Facebook app on his phone. And he opened it up, and for whatever reason, he could not figure out he was logged into another woman's account, a woman by the name of Celeste Zendler, and he couldn't log out. For whatever reason, he tried putting his name back in, tried logging out, all of this. Couldn't get out of her account. So he finally sent her a message saying, hey, I hope you don't think I'm a weirdo. I'm trying to get out of your Facebook account. Facebook won't let me out. Facebook confirmed it was a glitch, but here is the end of the story. They got married over the weekend. They got married over the weekend. Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
She said that once he started messaging her, she thought it was a little creepy at first, but then once he explained it, she understood it wasn't his fault and that his sense of humor was similar to hers, and they became good friends, and then they started dating long distance, and then there you go. Now they're married.
You never
Congratulations,
know.
you
You never know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. So, Avery, I got to start. I want all of our friends to know where we were yesterday, and thanks to you, I was there as your guest. An incredible moment, the memorial service for the great Julian Bond, who left us on August 15 of this year. I've never seen a service like that. It was phenomenal.
Really, it was something special, and I'm not even sure how you gauge these things, Bill. And thank you for coming yesterday. The interesting thing is you were situated at stage center, very close to the front.
Again, thanks to you.
Well, it was a Bill Press Fest. Because
no, it wasn't.
It was too. I mean, it was dramatic because of this iconic civil rights leader and contributor. But more than that, we saw it was a magnet for the elite of Washington, just about.
Mm-hmm.
But we are at the Grand Lincoln Theater, which was built, 1922, I think?
Right.
I didn't even know about it.
First time I've been in
No
it.
kidding.
Yeah.
And it
and
was
the people
packed.
Duke Ellington's performed there.
Right,
and
Sarah Vaughan.
on and on, yeah.
You know.
A great history.
Yeah,
to
it's
that
a
place.
legendary theater.
Franklin Roosevelt used to have parties there.
Oh, wow.
At the Lincoln Theater, right.
And it was majestic. It
But
really was
Leader Nancy Pelosi was there. Several members of Congress, including Bobby Scott from Virginia, a Senate Congresswoman and Senate candidate Donna Edwards. I mean, on and on. Just about anybody, and so many Civil War veterans, if you want. Civil rights veterans. And
I actually saw a couple of Civil War veterans. They were in the back.
They might have been, right. And a lot of former SNCC members and SNCC volunteers, because he was the founder of SNCC.
Right. And they were, you could tell these people still had the fire, still had the passion from the 1960s in the battle to desegregate the South. This was something.
And the music was phenomenal. The music was so moving. With the audience on its feet.
We were into
with
it.
That choir. We were.
Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is standing up. This little light of mine. And there was this extraordinary trumpet solo that kicked the show
kicked
off.
The thing off, yeah.
And the great Sam Cooke's change is, going to come. This was a combination of great speeches, great music, which is exactly what Julian Bond would have wanted.
So you knew him so well, and Peter, while we were, Avery and I, with some good friends from Chicago, by the way, I listen every morning on WCPT.
Shout out.
Very close friends of Julian Bond.
The Ryans.
The Ryans, Bob and Kathy.
Right.
We were... So we're waiting in line, and Julian was telling stories about his days with Julian Bond. Two of them I remember, and both of them ended up speakers or in various ways, both of them ended up as part of the service. Was that what Julian had told me ahead of going into the theater?
Really? Oh, wow.
One was Julian Bond told this funny story. He was actually a student of Martin Luther King Jr.'s.
That's right.
At Morehouse.
At Morehouse.
At Morehouse.
Right.
By the way, he did say that anybody who says, I studied under Dr. King at Morehouse is lying, because Julian said he gave one class.
Yeah, Dr. King taught one class.
And there were
one time 6 students.
And
Julian Bond was one of them.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Right.
And he says,
Whoa.
I'd like to tell you, Julian Bond would say, that I remember the pearls of wisdom that came out of Dr. King's mouth. He didn't have the slightest recollection of what the heck happened.
But he did know how many were there, and he says all these thousands of people who say that they studied under King, Dr. King at Morehouse are just lying. But he told a funny story about running into Dr. King walking across campus one day.
Oh, what a great story. Well, they called him Doc.
Yeah.
So here's a 19-year-old kid, Julian Bond, walking across the campus with Dr. Martin Luther King. And Dr. King is furrowing his brow, and Julian said, well, Doc, what's the matter? And he goes, well, segregation is entrenched, poverty is immovable. I don't know what we're going to do. I have a nightmare. And Julian says, he looked at him, he says, no, Doc, turn that around. I have a dream. And, of course, the rest is history, which is utter urban myth.
Whoa.
It never happened.
But Julian tells the story just as a
story.
It's a great story.
Well, he was a very...
And they had a videotape of Julian telling that story with a twinkle in his eye.
Absolutely.
As I'm the one who told Dr. King to say, I have a dream instead of I have a nightmare, which is
part of the beauty of Julian Bond, despite his great intellect and the seriousness of what he did, is he had sort of a naughty, twinkle, like you talked about.
Well, you can tell us an example of that, because the other thing that Julian told me out front, which again came up in the service, was that he had a favorite little poem, a little jingle.
Well, remember, this was back in the early 1960s.
Yeah.
Dr. King was iconic at that time, Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
And Julian writes a poem. And he wrote some very serious ones, but it went like this. See that girl? Shake that thing. We all can't be Dr. Martin Luther King. This is tremendous.
Oh my God, that is great.
But it was the sort of thing that you would, the part of the civil rights movement that nobody really talks about exactly, because, they were all a little naughty and a little bit of fun, but pure vintage Julian Bond.
But you know what's funny to
really
me
came out.
is when he passed, one of the things I didn't realize is how funny he was. He hosted Saturday Night Live.
Absolutely.
And there were some hilarious clips out of that.
And they didn't show one of them last night.
Oh, wow.
No, I didn't know there weren't any.
There was one where Julian plays the part of a talk show host.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the Bill Press equivalent back in the 1970s. And Garrett Morris is the pretend guest.
Mm-hmm.
And Morris, acted as if he were the professor about intelligence tests and how terrible this is. And Julian, as the host, says, well, that's only because it's a well-known fact that light-skinned blacks are much smarter than dark-skinned blacks. Of course, the audience explodes, and it was highly politically incorrect. And you know what, Bill? I got to tell you something. I actually thought they were going to do that clip. But I'm thinking, that's way off. That's just not going to happen.
Oh, man. No, what a great moment. What a great American. And what a difference that he made in his life for all of us. It's so great to have Avery Friedman here. We got more to talk about. We'll come to take a quick break and come back. Make good use of the time we have.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the area.
she's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, weekend legal correspondent for CNN. So lucky to have him in studio with us today, Avery Friedman. Avery, you still teach. You're a broadcaster. You teach journalism. You appreciate the good work that some journalists are doing out there today.
Yeah, and you're a modest guy. You never talk about this stuff, but 19 years doing what you did and then continuing in this medium. I tell my students that journalists, especially broadcast journalists, are the guardians of the democracy. You don't do what lawyers do, you don't do what doctors do, but you don't have a free society without what you do. And I am stultified that more people don't talk about the importance of that. critical about media, get that part of it. But without it, you don't have a free society. You don't have a democracy.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because the bad eggs in journalism.
Yeah.
Give everybody else a bad
You got
name.
bad doctors and bad lawyers.
Sure.
But and I get to slide into your world thinking, wow. I mean, now you understand how what you have to say, Bill, affects the thinking of literally millions of people over the years, and how that affects policy of our country.
Yeah. Well, you too, and I salute you. You've been out there doing this, and have that platform now on CNN, which you make great use of. I got to get your take on a story in the news today. The Justice Department announcing, and I know you've been involved with this, that they're going to release 6,000 people from prison at the end of this month. I mean, that's huge.
Well, it is.
And who decides who gets out and who stays?
The U.S. Sentencing Commission. They deal with the U.S. Bureau of Prisons, and they're going to examine the nature of the crime and the disproportionality of those crimes to the sentence. So, and at the end of the day, it's going to shave off, on an average, of about 2 years off his sentences. And Congress took testimony on this bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They heard from federal judges and public defenders. And it's really, at the end of the day, without major legislative changes, this is really important. And the U.S. Sentencing Commission, which nobody knows about, actually has the authority to do that, and it's going to kick in at the end of October, early November.
Right. And will there be also some reduction of sentences, like moving into the future, so nonviolent drug offenders will not get these 25-year sentences or life sentences or whatever?
That's going to be a legislative matter. I mean, I think the executive branch can do as much as they can do. Sentencing Commission, obviously, the president with executive orders. But ultimately, the responsibility is really on Congress.
Right. Another legal issue. Hillary Clinton said this week that she can end the gun show loophole by executive order, no act of Congress.
I don't know what she's talking about. I mean, seriously, I'm not sure, ever since there were two major cases, McDonald and Heller by the Supreme Court, if rights under the Second Amendment are personal rights, I can't figure out constitutionally how the executive could just enter an executive order and blow up the Constitution. Just not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Can't do it. No.
Nope. Sounds like a soundbite.
All right. You're on this weekend, CNN?
Yeah.
All right. We'll look for you. Avery Friedman. And we find you at Avery Friedman?
Yeah. AveryFriedman.com.
AveryFriedman.com. Okay. Betsy Woodruff joins us next. Avery, thank you. So good to see you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada! What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TalkerTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour. Yes, indeed, The Bill Press Show. We're winding up here on a Wednesday, October 7. Coming to you live from our nation's capital and brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America. Terry O'Sullivan's the president of the Laborers Union. Good men and women there of the Laborers Union building a better America every day. And you can find out more about their good work by going to their website at Liuna Builds America, rather. Liuna, L-I-U-N-A, liunabuildsamerica.org. Latest polls out today showing Donald Trump not going anywhere except up, up, up. Even in the, we know that he's up in Iowa and New Hampshire and nationwide, and now the swing states, according to the latest Quinnipiac poll. He's doing very well. Also, Betsy Woodruff covers the political scene for the Daily Beast, and she joins us in studio this morning. Hey, Betsy, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So if you look at Florida, you look at Ohio, you look beyond Iowa and New Hampshire, you look at Florida, you look at Ohio, you look at Pennsylvania. It's still Donald Trump and Ben Carson ahead.
No sign.
What's going on?
No sign of that flagging.
No. Everybody's thought he would. People keep telling me he's not going to last as long as Iowa, and I keep saying, no, he'll be there.
No, he definitely will. Yeah, I think the rumors of Trump's campaign demise are wildly exaggerated. What really struck me about this poll is that Trump and Carson are both beating Kasich in Ohio. You know, Kasich's calling card is that he'd be able to win that state for Republicans if he's on the ticket somewhere. The fact that he can't beat, this goofy hair reality TV star means maybe he'd have a little bit of trouble with Hillary. I don't know, maybe.
Well, Ben Carson and Donald Trump are both ahead of Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush in Florida. What's that tell you? Same thing, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I just can't imagine how embarrassing this is for those guys. Like, it's their home state. Like, these are their stomping grounds. You're supposed to be able to win that, but apparently not. I mean, it just shows like how broad their appeal is, right? And wasn't there a report yesterday that Trump's only spent something like $2 million on his campaign so far? His earned media is really paying off. Mm-hmm. There's a certain sector of the Republican base that loves him. He's saying things other people aren't saying, and kind of the same thing with Carson. So I think there's no sign of either of these guys flagging anytime soon.
Wow. It's this outsider syndrome, right? I mean, not just that Rubio and and Bush's message is not resonating. But look at Carly, Carson, and Donald Trump.
Right. Underqualification is now a qualification. We want someone with as little experience as possible.
Never having held political office.
Exactly. Right.
And even in Carly's case, it's not that she hasn't tried.
I know.
Right?
I know. Bless her heart.
Bless her heart is such a good way to describe Carly Fiorina just in general. Oh, look at this new ad. Oh, bless her heart. Oh, she's singing to her dogs on late night.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Bless her heart.
I did love that. That touched me.
Ay,
I
ay,
relate
ay.
to that. I relate to that 100%. As someone who had phone conversations with a pet bird in college, I get it.
I did too, but I was usually on mushrooms.
Oh boy.
And then
that's a true story.
Good morning, friend.
Hi, Mom.
But Ben Carson is still up there, despite having said some really crazy things. And most recently, yesterday morning on Fox and Friends about guns. Let's just start with the first one, Jamie, where the fact that anybody who talks about guns, he says, is not focusing on the right issue.
Of course it is the person behind the gun. Guns don't kill people. And the Second Amendment is extremely important.
Yeah, he even said the Second Amendment is more important than blood. It doesn't matter how many people are killed.
I honestly think there's a chance this guy is a false flag operation by the Brady campaign or something, trying to destroy any confidence that Americans have in the virtue of the Second Amendment, because he's doing a really good job, right? Yeah. He also said that no bullet-mangled body he'd ever seen is as disgusting as taking away people's Second Amendment rights. I mean, who says that? That's weird.
It's really weird.
Odd.
It's really weird.
He also said that the victims, it's their own fault because they didn't rush the gunman.
Right. He said if he was there, he would have run after the guy. And he also said that if he were President Obama, he probably wouldn't meet with the victims of this shooting because he'd be too busy, but he'd meet with the victims of the next mass shooting.
Quote,
he said that.
The
he
next
said
one.
that.
Yeah. That is insanity.
It's amazing. It's probably going to help his polls. I mean, look, he also said that like any potential theoretical Muslim presidential candidate would be devoted to creeping Sharia and creeping jihad, and that's why we can't have a Muslim president. That didn't hurt him at all. That did great for him, If I'm Ben Carson, of course I'm going to keep saying this stuff. It's working.
But, I mean, we were talking a bit earlier. He almost makes Donald Trump seem sane,
I think you can definitely make that case. Yeah. I think, yes.
Which is
that's
weird.
an observation we've made. This
right.
is such a fun election.
All right, so how does
it
this
is the best election ever. I mean, the election in general, just everything is so
Everything
funny.
about it is. We just need Biden to enter. And
Yeah,
it'll be
oh
perfect.
my God.
Oh, perfect. We'll get to the Democratic side in a second, but how does this play out on the Republican side? Will the establishment fail to prevail in this year and end up with all the rest of them now look like establishment candidates compared to
the
these
establishment
three.
Ted Cruz.
Yeah, right. Or the
Rhino
establishment Mike Huckabee or something. Right.
Rhino Rick Santorum.
Well, is it possible that one of these people will?
Totally possible, 100%. I mean, and it's just a really good reminder of how much of a bubble DC reporters live in. I mean, the extent to which we all just had this major epistemic closure about the nature of many of these voters. Right? There's this idea: there's no way Trump's going to run. Oh, there's no way he's going to file his FEC paperwork. Well, he's not going to poll well. Well, his poll numbers are going to go down. Well, now they're going to go down. Right? It's like just this total resistance to basic facts that we're seeing. Right? Just this refusal to look at numbers and understand that numbers mean things and correspond with reality. So I mean, of course, what's basically Trump support plus Carson support plus Carly's support is more than 50%. That's a lot of people who just are voting for anybody who's never been to DC before. That's a lot of people. You have to take that seriously.
And on the Democratic side, the first Democratic debate, I'm so excited, is Tuesday? Yeah. In the 6th, right?
Yeah. 6 days from
13.
6 days from today.
Okay.
As I can tell from CNN's very helpful countdown
Yes,
clock.
they have the countdown
Which, no
clock.
kidding, they actually had that up earlier. 6 days.
All right. Tuesday in Las Vegas. Hillary will be there. Bernie Sanders will be there. Lincoln Chafee will be there. Jim Webb and Martin O'Malley. Will Joe Biden?
I don't think so. I think he's almost said he's not going to be at the debate. He said he'll decide probably before then, but won't actually go to it. So if he does, which I don't have any good inside information on that, my gut says no. My heart says yes, please. If he does, I don't think he'll be at the debate.
Okay. But you say your heart says yes, please
oh,
run.
are you kidding? It would be awesome if you ran.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassment of riches between Trump, Carson, and then also, Vice President Snugglebud. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'd be great. Just from a journalistic perspective, I would love that.
But can he survive? Can he not be on stage in the first debate and still be a serious candidate?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the first debate has Lincoln Chafee on stage. And being on the debate stage does not equal seriousness.
Oh.
Hopefully, we can have a rousing debate about the metric system.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
That's the one thing he said that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Atone for the sins of the Iraq War by switching to centimeters. Of course.
And Jim Webb. I mean, come on, right?
I don't even know.
Jim Webb, who didn't go to the first debate, well, in front of the DNC. Were you there in Minneapolis? I forget now. But, he didn't even show up because he said he had to take his daughter to college.
That's so nice.
I mean, that's
good for him,
nice,
yeah.
but at the time, yeah.
But at the same time, right, it's
If
a
you're
little...
president, there.
Maybe your daughter can drive herself. Maybe she'll be okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what to say about Jim Webb. I don't think I've read a single article about him or paid attention to him or given him any space in my brain at all for the last 3 months, which maybe I'm underserving him, right? Is he polling at 1%? Like, that's pretty good. I think what's interesting is the fact that Martin O'Malley is in the same ballpark as these goofballs, even though he's gotten a ton of earned media. I mean, for a while, he was the Drudge banner every day. His comms shop is very aggressive, like very energetically pushing him. And his poll numbers are just like stubbornly at 1%. I'm pretty sure he's picked up one Iowa voter for every trip he's made to Iowa, which is, oh well.
I can't figure out what the deal is.
He's a real guy. I mean, a real policy wonk. I mean, he was a good governor, I think. His stuff, the policy stuff that I've seen, he was out ahead of Hillary Clinton on gun safety with as strong, if not a stronger even package. I mean, so he's a serious guy, right?
He's trying really hard, but it's not doing it.
Bless his heart.
Look, bless his heart, I guess, right again. If Bernie Sanders were not there, Martin O'Malley would be up in double digits. No?
I don't know. I mean, he wasn't in double digits before Bernie Sanders was there, right? I mean, Martin O'Malley's been running forever, and he's just never really taken off, and people don't know who he is. I don't think people see a comparative advantage to O'Malley over Clinton.
What does Hillary have to do Tuesday night?
Talk in complete sentences, not say anything sarcastic and career-ending. Try to give a coherent explanation of how she gets pressed on the email scandal. Maybe try to give a coherent explanation of her dramatic shift on the issues of gay rights, of her, try to reiterate the spin she has about gun violence. Earlier, years ago, she said that she didn't want more federal laws about guns, and now she says, oh, that's because we wanted the states to be able to have even stricter gun laws. I mean, come on, right? She has to give a coherent answer on that. And I think communicate that she can be exciting and that people can like her and honestly be excited about her as an individual candidate rather than excited about her as some theoretical hooray women in general viewpoint.
Taking a look at the best election that we can remember, the most fun, the most exciting in our lifetime, and the weirdest probably as well, with Betsy Woodruff and Daily Beast. Jump in. It's fun. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
You know, Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit
isn't it?
everything.
Yeah, a
It's
little bit.
kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking. Random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
And our sexy liberal army of callers calling every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
12 minutes before the top of the hour with Betsy Woodruff in studio from the Daily Beast, thedailybeast.com. Betsy, you've been written recently about something strange that's happening here in Washington, D.C. in the last few years. When I came here, the Heritage Foundation was sort of the granddaddy of the think tanks, a conservative think tank, very respected, very establishment, sort of pumping out position papers that even sometimes Democrats look at Bill Clinton taking the idea about the individual mandate for Obamacare. I'm sorry, Barack Obama taking that, Bill Clinton for welfare reform. Jim DeMint went over, left the Senate, becomes head of the Heritage Foundation, and what's happened since?
Things have gotten a little weird. So shortly before DeMint left the Senate to become president of the Heritage Foundation, they rolled out this new sister organization called Heritage Action. Heritage Action is classified as a 501c4, which means it can directly lobby members of Congress in favor or in opposition of individual pieces of legislation. That was a big shift for the Heritage Foundation because beforehand, Heritage was kind of, this benevolent ivory tower organization.
Right.
They put out papers. They said, here's a general policy idea that's smart. We hope you like it. Here's why we think it's good. It was all carrot and no stick, if you will, as far as influencing people. They used to have all kinds of conferences.
I went to several of them there. They'd have people from both sides. They would have good, intellectual, stimulating discussions about issues and stuff.
And very conservative, right? Unapologetically conservative, but also pretty intellectually honest and not interested in dabbling in electoral politics. But then DeMint came in, and DeMint is perhaps most famous for once saying that he would rather the Senate have 30 Marco Rubios than 60 Arlen Specters. In other words, he'd rather Republicans have zero political power but be ideologically pure as a party. He said that pre-Gang of 8, of course, than Republicans actually have the ability to get stuff done. And he definitely has taken that idea to the Heritage Foundation. So with Heritage Action, where people sort of really realized things had changed was with the government shutdown in 2013. Heritage Action basically had a pre-game show where they toured around the United States, their president, along with, I believe it was Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, speaking at all these rallies around the country. They spent about $500,000 encouraging their supporters to call their members of Congress, tell them not to vote. Exactly, tell them not to vote for any government funding bill that would pay for the Affordable Care Act. And it worked. And we got a government shutdown. And Heritage Action the entire time said, this is what we have to do. We have to stand on principle. They key voted against legislation that would have opened the government, which basically meant that they were saying that any member of Congress who wanted to open the government and fund legislation that had been passed was not a real, true conservative. And when that happened, there was just an enormous amount of animosity on the Hill. So what we look at in this piece is sort of some of the fallout from that, and specifically how it's hurt Heritage Foundation scholars, right? These scholars that used to be so well respected, taken really seriously. And the concrete example that we found of Heritage Foundation scholars being hurt, and I heard this from a number of members, is that they're much less likely to be invited to testify before congressional committees.
Right.
Because if you're a committee chair and Heritage Action is going after a couple of guys on your panel saying they're rhinos destroying the party, you don't want to have a Heritage Foundation guy coming in and lecturing you. So we looked at the number of times Heritage Foundation scholars have testified before Congress thus far in 2015. It's about 18 times, not a huge number. Contrast that to the American Enterprise Institute, which is sort of moving into Heritage Foundation space. AEI scholars have testified about 34 times, and their policy shop is a lot smaller than the Heritage Foundation's. They get nearly twice as many slots. That's because as Heritage Foundation fades out, AEI has kind of entered that space and gotten a lot more clout on the Hill.
So DeMint has really turned this into a Republican attack machine, not only against Democrats, but against fellow Republicans.
In fact, not even really against Democrats at all. All the ad money that Heritage Action spent during the government shutdown, telling constituents to call their members, it was all directed against Republicans. They didn't even bother going after Democrats, which is almost a tacit acceptance that Heritage doesn't have that much influence over Dems anymore, and that it's, partisan.
We started with whether or not Donald Trump is going to last. Is Bernie Sanders in for the long haul?
I think definitely. Yeah. I just sort of pick any poll at random, and he's doing much better than people expected.
And look at his money, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And all that money is without him having a particularly muscular fundraising apparatus, right? He's not hopping around, going to every big city, having fancy events. This is all internet stuff.
No, he's not spending much time. I don't think he's spending. I'll bet you he has not made one phone call asking one donor for money.
And he's also not spending as much money to raise money as Hillary is. He's taking it in at a faster rate than he's sending it out, which it means for the long haul, that's really good news for him.
Doing it mainly online, and he hasn't run one ad.
I don't think so. No.
No.
It's fascinating.
And also interesting to see, so far, he and Hillary have refrained from any personal attacks on each other, unlike the Republican crowd, right? Every day.
Yeah.
What was Donald Trump's latest thing about Marco Rubio? Oh, he only has $12 in the bank.
He also said he's sweaty.
Yeah. He's sitting in that Trump water, the bottles of water, and a couple of towels.
Yeah, because
he's sweaty. You're a very sweaty guy.
And his spokesman clarified the towels are because he's a sweaty guy.
Right.
Just so everybody gets
Just
it.
so you understand here. Yeah.
But anyhow, Bernie and Hillary have refrained from that, and be interesting to see if they are able to get through the debate and hold true to that pledge. Hey, Betsy, it's so great to see you. So much fun to talk about the fun game here.
Sure thing. Thanks for having
All
me.
right, thanks for coming in. I'll wrap things up with a parting shot when we come back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yep, anybody who says one man can't make a difference never met or heard of Julian Bond. I had the honor of joining hundreds of his friends and fellow civil rights activists at his memorial service yesterday here in Washington. Bond died last August 15 after an incredible career as a civil rights leader. Get this, founder of the Student Nonviolent Campaign Committee, first president of the Southern Poverty Law Center, 8 years in the Georgia House, 12 years in the Georgia Senate, 12 years as chairman of the NAACP. Julian Bond, back in 1968, was even nominated for vice president at the Democratic Convention, and he had to decline because he was only 28 years old. A quiet, steady, determined leader, not a rabble-rouser, but he inspired others to seek truth to power, a real fighter for justice, who never looked back and never gave up, right up there with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis as one of the great civil rights leaders of our time. Damn right he made a difference. He made America a better land and made all of us a more just American people. Hey, folks, that's it. Thanks for being with us. Come back tomorrow.
This is The Bill Press Show.